Hey man, how are you?
Real good. Where are you today?
I'm in Nashville. Sorry to call a few minutes late, but my other interviews have gone a little bit over, so I apologize.
That's okay. Better late than never, right? And I've been on the receiving end of never as well sometimes, so that's fine. You're right on time. So are you at home? Is Nashville where you hang your hat?
I live here, and I've been at home for the past couple of days, which has been nice.
Taking a little break from the road?
Yeah, a couple of days, and of course we start back up tomorrow, but that's all right.
So how many guys are you bringing out with you to kind of do the Trampoline songs?
Well, we have we have 4 horn players and another guy singing harmony and playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an extra 5 guys and 5 that we're already out with. So that's 10 on stage.
Cool. Couldn't bring the strings though, huh?
No. couldn't bring the strings. Union rules.
Next time. No, that's, I mean, when you had that, I've read the stories about how you recorded the album and you had the big group in the studio. I mean, and of course, reading also as well about how you invited friends and family and people to come and check out what were you doing. Was the idea of having an audience there, so to speak, so that when you were, that you'd feel like you were performing for them?
Well, yeah. I mean, in a sense, that I guess that's probably the real reason for having them there, and the other is to kind of just have bring a sense of informality to the recording session.
Mm-hmm.
So many studio sessions are so tight-lipped and stiff and really rather dull and boring. Is essentially what happens.
Right.
And we wanted to create an atmosphere that was fun for everybody. And in turn, I know that it would be fun for us, because then we'd have to, we'd have no choice but to have fun, So we really wanted to do that in the studio and create an atmosphere where you could have a performance, where you could capture the little magic thing at that moment, that you can't quite put your finger on it, but that you like it, So we really had a good time, and it was an intense recording session. Probably the most intense recording session I've ever been a part of, just because of the people there. Not only were your friends and family there, but they were also videotaping the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
And when you're sitting in a room with the string section and the horns and the concert percussionist over here and this guy over here, you don't want to be the guy screwing up.
Right.
You don't want to be the guy that let everybody else down. So I think that little added energy is what really helps out, and that's what really makes the performance, and all those things combined really created that energy.
I heard about the film crew. So what was the result of the film? Has a movie or a video, something come out?
Well, we have a lot of hours on film from the sessions, and when we have time to kind of sift through them and look through them, then we'll put together a documentary. Showing how the record was made and how we recorded it and all. And basically, we wanted to do it just to show that it can be done nowadays. We rely so much on technology and new innovations for recording that we forget about the human qualities of making records. And to me, that was so important, and that's why we wanted to make this record this way as well.
You know, the amazing thing to me about making this particular record in this fashion is that you're, of course, not the first ones to come along and say, yeah, let's do like it live in the studio.
Right.
But usually when people do that, they go for the stripped down, you know, basic band approach. And here you go completely in the opposite direction, and you go for the cinemascope approach, and you have all these other people there, which
Right.
would seem to really up the risk factor of the whole
sure.
undertaking.
Well, you know, that to me is the fun part. You know, is the risk part. You know, that's where you can sink your teeth into it. I mean, that's what I like. I like taking those kinds of chances, and I had been wanting to make a record like this for a while. You know, because I mean, I sit back and I find myself going back and listening to like all my old records always, you know, all my favorite records of all time. And I never find myself going to hear new records. And it's not because I don't like them, but it's because they don't do anything for me. It's not that I don't like them, I don't hate them, they're kind of bland. And part of it is the way they're made, the material, you know, the artists themselves, whatever. But I think a lot of it is just that you know, we've become so reliant on technology that we forget about the art of capturing a performance in the studio, and that is something that's a quality that you can't quite put your finger on it, you know. But when you listen to those old, any records, any Beatle records, Tina Turner records, Ray Charles, the one, you know, Sinatra, everything they have in common is that they captured a moment in time that could never, ever, ever be duplicated. And that's a beautiful thing, I think.
You know, a lot of people have noted that this particular album, it kind of captures the spirit of what radio was like maybe in the late 50s and the early 60s, where you'd listen to a top 40 station and you didn't know what the heck was going to be next. You'd have all sorts of... and for people who remember that fondly, it's a wonderful thing to listen to your record, but obviously you're a little bit too young to have been listening to the radio in 1960. Can you account for how you kind of got that far back?
Well, I got to say, though, that yeah, definitely too young for 1960, but you know, even when I was growing up, I still listened to a lot of great radio. You know, radio had not been formatted or had not changed that much. I mean, you know, I don't know when it started getting really bad, but I remember when I was you know, a couple of years old and 5 or 6 years old, you know, 1970, 71 or something. I still remember listening to great radio when I was a kid, and listening to AM radio and really loving music. And I remember listening to, I'd hear in the same station, I'd hear Herb Alpert, I'd hear Johnny Cash, I'd hear Glenn Miller, you know, all in the same station. And it didn't matter. There was no, I don't know, there was no pretense about it. There was nothing. You know, they just played it. And that's how I grew up loving music. I grew up listening to music in that sort of innocent, uninhibited way, I guess. There's no other way to describe it. And it's a shame that it's gone the other way now. You know, it really is. And I think maybe that's part of the success of this record, is that people perhaps miss those kinds of days. You know?
I think people surely do. You know, it used to be fun when Casey Kasem would get on there and, you know, count down the top 40, and you go, oh, I love this song, and oh, I hate that song, and
yeah.
But, you know, then the next one would be great, and there'd be just so many different types of things.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you come out with a record like this, which just is so absolutely defiant of categorization, do people in Nashville say, "You're nuts, man"?
Oh yeah. But they've always said that. So that's fine. I don't mind being that. I don't mind being the guy that criticizes country radio. Somebody's got to. I see so many things. I love music so much, and I hate seeing what's happening out there. As far as like artists are concerned, and the way they're treated, country radio, the way they treat artists, and it's horrible. But we've always been on the outside, sort of. So being on the outside is nothing new to me, and I wouldn't do it any other way, really. This is the way we like to work, and this is how we like to do things. So I don't mind it at all.
Obviously your name is a perfect fit for a group that is on the outside. When you chose the name the Mavericks, and was it very much with the intent that you knew you were going to be upset in the apple cart, or did it just kind of turn out that way and that you made a good choice?
I think it just turned out that way, and we made a good choice. I don't know that we knew back then that we were going to be this and that. I don't think you ever can tell any of that stuff. But yeah, I guess we just kind of grew into the name.
Do you think, how much does your, being Cuban have to do with that outsider status? Does that kind of like almost, by definition, have people in Nashville looking at you twice, or is that something which is really, much more having to do with music than ethnicity?
I think, there's probably a little bit of both in what you're saying there. I got to say that in Nashville itself, I've gotten nothing but incredible support from the industry, from label, from everything. Never. But I'm sure that there are factions in the industry, and I happen to think this of radio as well, that they're pretty elitist, and they're not all radio guys are like this, but there are a lot of. I think there's a deep down, good old boys club that won't let us break in, and part of it is because I'm Cuban, probably. There's some of that. But I'm not going to worry about it. I think it's their loss.
Do you find, what's it like on the other side when you go back to Miami? Do you find that friends and relatives who are Cuban, do they think you're weird, or do they love the fact that you're kind of going where no Hispanic has gone before?
Yeah, no, they love that aspect of it, and they love the fact that I've played the Grand Ole Opry and that I've won CMAs and ACMs, and they're really proud of that, because it's like you said, it's going where no Hispanic has gone before. That's an important issue for Hispanics, and it's an important issue for me too, because I'm very proud of my roots, and I'm proud of my heritage, and I want to do them right.
This record is so diverse that it almost you're not really, people can call you a country group, but, you're not, huh?
Yeah.
Well, so is that something, obviously you were called a country group when you were starting out for the first three albums. Do you feel like you've left that category, really?
Well, I think that we've always we've always been in certain absolutely the early in my career, my songwriting wise, I was very influenced by country music. I love it. I love it still. I'm very respectful of the country music and its heritage. I know more about country music than a lot of guys working in radio do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth. A lot of guys out there, they think that country music started with James Taylor. And that's the sad part of it. And so I'm very proud of country music, or where we started at. And but I think it's one of those things where it's not like I wanted to abandon country music or anything like that. I have creative needs that I want to do that need to be fulfilled, and in order to do that, if you got to step outside of it, then so be it. And if that's going to upset some people, then those are the chances you got to take. But I refuse to be pigeonholed or to be left to in one category or be told to do one specific kind of music or one specific kind of anything. I'm just not into that. The creative side is an important aspect to any artist, and I think when you got something to say, you got something to do, you have to do it, if not, then I think you're going to be frustrated and unhappy, and in turn that's going to show in your music. And I don't ever want to do that. I don't ever want to deceive the fans that way. I want, when fans come out to a show, or when people hear our records, or they come out to the show, I want them to leave that night just going, my God, these guys, how can you not enjoy the show? They enjoyed it so much, you got to enjoy it right along with them. And I think that you can tell when an artist is not happy with their music or with their whatever it is they're doing, and that shows through. Mm-hmm. And I refuse to be put in that place.
The sort of ironic thing to me is that here people kind of look at this Trampoline and say, wow, it's so these guys are far out or weird, or this goes against the grain or whatever. And yet, in searching for comparisons in my own mind, I really had to go back, and I started really thinking of Elvis at the height of his popularity, when he covered so many types of different music and did it in a kind of larger-than-life fashion that you approached on Trampoline. And in other words, what I'm saying is there are people who consider you outsiders, and yet the music you're doing in actuality would seem to have a tremendously broad appeal.
Well, the reality is that it does have a broad appeal. We have a huge record in Europe. Mm-hmm. We have a top 10 single, a top 10 album. We're outselling Madonna and Celine Dion, in Europe. And things are just phenomenal over there.
And is that just with this? Did that just start with this new record?
Well, no. We've always had a great audience over there. We've worked it well over the past couple of years, but this record has hit at the right time, and it's the right kind of record. And I got to say that when everywhere you go, people are playing the record, and people are loving what you do, and little kids come up to you, and you're signing autographs, and the taxi drivers tell you what a great record you have. That just, and then you come to America, and radio won't play your records. Somebody is wrong. Somebody is very wrong. Somebody is missing the point. And that's the problem that we're facing right now, is that country radio is absolutely missing the point. And I mean, I kind of shrug it off because we're going to be okay with or without country radio. You know, if they don't want to play our records, that's fine. Screw them. You know, but I think that it,
something happened.
yeah.
Well, I mean, if you've kind of left, if country radio isn't interested, and the group musically has, in a sense, moved beyond country, is maybe the real situation now that you should be looking for airplay on, you know, pop radio, and that's really where you're headed?
Yeah, that's kind of what's happening now, anyways. The record label has just started the pop radio campaign, so it appears that we are headed that way.
Well, your label's MCA Nashville. Do you think, like, for the next record, it would make sense if you were just plain all MCA and, you know, you were handled by New York and LA instead?
Yeah, you know, that's definitely a possibility. And again, you know, that just goes that goes alongside with the, you know, record company negotiations and you know, the politics of a label. You know, you have massive egos involved and you know, different scenarios that you got to watch out for and just kind of deal with very gingerly, I might add. But I think the end result is that you know, the record gets played, and if that happens and we have a hit record, then I think everybody will be okay with that.
Do you ever talk with the other guys about, I mean, obviously, you're a hell of a good country band. If you just wanted to play straight country, do you ever think that maybe you'll record a quote-unquote straight country album just to, like, you know, say, hey, we can do this too?
Well, if we were to record, honestly, I think if we were to record a straight-ahead country album, I don't think we'd get any airplay either. You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, the country records we would like to make would sound nothing like the bad 70s pop imitations you get nowadays with a steel guitar.
Sure. Well, they don't play Willie or George Jones on country radio anymore either.
Yeah. So it's not like we'd sound, you know, we'd sound contemporary. We'd sound like you know, the old honky-tonk dudes. You know, if we were going to make a country record, that's what it'd be like. And that's unfortunate because, you know, it's funny how they talk about, you know, how we've abandoned our country roots or whatever, and I'm going, are you kidding me? You know? I mean, what country roots is that? James Taylor? You know, Fogelberg? Give me a break, you know? And that's all that you hear on country radio, you know, because that's the guys on country radio. That's what they grew up listening to.
Yep.
You know, was the they think, you know, it's hilarious how a station will have rock and country, and they'll play the Eagles, but they won't play the Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And the Eagles is like, yeah, young country. It's like, give me a break. Don Henley could be my grandfather. You know?
I had heard that back before the making of Trampoline, you were thinking of making a solo album that might have been like in a lounge or jazz or Tin Pan Alley direction. Was that something that you had, in fact, considered?
Well, it's definitely something that I'm going to do at some point. I love I love all the crooner stuff, and I mean, I actually had I do this big band gig in town when I have time, and we put together a pretty large orchestra and just get together and sing all the great old standards, and it's a lot of fun. I'd love to do something along those lines, but maybe a little more contemporary, like you know, with some modern songs in it, but in that vein, you know. but definitely bring a modern twist instead of just doing a retro crooners album. You know?
So I mean, there is a lot of that whole lounge revival going on. Is that something that it sounds like you've kind of checked it out some sort of way, but you're not quite ready to do it in such a sort of, a straight-ahead retro fashion?
Yeah, well, I mean, we sort of touched upon it on the last album, Music for All Occasions.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun, and it certainly is it's got a certain amount of kitsch to it, but it's like anything. I don't want to just do something just because it's trendy or because it's hip at the moment. I want to do something that feels right, that is going to have longevity, and the way I approach music is like, well, is this something that I want to sing for the rest of my life? And if there's a question mark, I don't do it. But if the answer is yes, then I'll definitely do it and take my chances that way.
Obviously, this record is not all that old yet, but you listen to it and a fan would think, man, where will the Mavericks go next? And it seems like it could be anywhere. Do you feel like there is a direction that you're headed in that you could talk about at this point?
You know what? I honestly haven't even thought about it. We don't even know. Somebody asked us that the other day, and it's like, man, I don't even have a concept of next album, nothing. And honestly, I like it that way. We're real busy right now, just trying to make this one a hit. That we just don't have time to think about another one.
With all the talk about how country radio is, how it sucks and how your outsider status and that, there are an awful lot of great musicians in Nashville, and I know that and all of that kind of stuff. Do you find in general, and you have won Country Music Awards and that kind of stuff, on just a regular sort of person-to-person level, do you find that people in Nashville on the whole dig what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. I think not only do they dig what we're doing, I think that in many cases, they love the fact that we are outspoken and sort of, throw caution to the wind, because there isn't enough of that around. I mean, everybody is such a conformist. The artists are conformist. Everybody, artists go to media training school to so that they can learn what to say. So every time you ask an artist, what does it mean to win an award, or what does it mean to be here? Everybody says the same thing. Well, we're just glad to be here. We're just glad to be invited, and this and that. Everybody has that humble bullshit approach. Which is all a bunch of crock of shit, because they all wish they could win, and they all, and half of them hate the other guy's records and all that. But nobody says anything. Nobody says anything fun. Not even joking around. I mean, I'm not saying you got to make fun of other artists, because I'm not into that. And but my God, have some fun. Give an honest answer every once in a while. Nobody gives you an honest answer anymore about anything, because everybody's just trying to be so politically correct and so that we just take the honesty out of people. The system does. I mean, or people allow it to. And I refuse. I refuse. I mean, I've certainly have gotten in trouble for saying stuff in the past, and I really don't give a shit. That's the way it is, and I'll continue to get in trouble from here on out. But when you ask me a question, I'm going to give you at least the response that you deserve, which is an honest response. I mean, I think people deserve that.
Yeah, and I mean, were you asked to go to media training school?
Oh yeah, I told them all to go fuck themselves. Media training school.
Wow, I've never, yeah, I mean, I believe you, but I never heard that. I didn't realize it had gone that far. It's almost like, you know, people talk about how the Supremes and the Jackson 5, how Motown, you know, groomed all of these people back then, and it made a certain amount of sense. But, yeah, I mean, you see all of these, the young cowboys coming along. I guess they need the training too, or...
I guess, I don't know. No, I think it's just to really make them say the right things without offending anybody. And how can you live like that? I mean, no matter, just by nature, you're going to offend somebody. You know, I mean, you can't go through life worrying about it. You know.
Yeah, well,
I mean, you try not to offend anybody. I certainly, you don't need to be spouting out racial slurs or anything like that. But I mean, nobody in their right mind would do that kind of stuff, anyways. You know, I think. You know, I don't know. But I don't get that sort of conformist mentality, and I can't believe that artists go for that. You know, but I guess that's part of the Nashville way, is to kind of maybe give in a little bit to some of that crap.
So do you think, you know, we ever contemplate moving out of Nashville?
Oh, no, hell no. I love it here.
Great. Well, listen, Raul, I'll let you go, because I swore a blood oath to Ivy that I wouldn't keep you on the phone more than 20 minutes. Oh. It's been a half an hour. You can tell him I was good.
All right.
But it was great talking to you, man. And,
thank you.
Looking forward to hearing you all when you get up to Cohasset you're playing, which is a little bit south of Boston, but it's a nice summer venue that you're going to be at.
Well, I look forward to it.
That should be cool. All right. Take care, man.
Take care, man.
Bye.
Bye.